Good evening, and welcome back to Dreamward Stories, where quiet stories lead you dreamward. Before we begin, make yourself as comfortable as you can. Let the lights be low. Let the room feel safe. Let your breath move slowly, in and out, without needing to change anything too much. The day has done enough now. You can let it rest. Tonight, you are listening to a peaceful story written for adults who want something atmospheric, gentle, and quietly absorbing, something interesting enough to follow, but soft enough to fall asleep to. As you settle in, you are invited to leave a small comment saying where you are listening from. A town, a country, a cozy room, a rainy window, whatever feels right tonight. If the story brings you calm, you can leave a like. And if you would like more long, soothing stories for sleep, you are welcome to subscribe. Now, take one more slow breath. Let the outside world fade. And let the story begin. Tonight, you are a king no one recognizes. When the palace sleeps and the towers grow quiet, you leave behind the crown, the council, and the weight of daylight. Wrapped in a plain cloak, you walk the silent streets of your city, helping where no one expects a king to notice. A baker's frozen door, a bridge in the rain, lost child beside a fountain. Small kindnesses left quietly in the dark. But on this night, something has changed. Outside the baker's door, a lantern waits for you. Then another, then another. One by one, the people you once helped have left their lights burning in the sleeping city, forming a glowing path through markets, bridges, lantern streets, and forgotten towers. The city remembers what you tried to hide, and before dawn it will show you not only who you have been, but what kind of king you are truly becoming. The first lantern is waiting outside the baker's door. It is not burning when you turn the corner into Flower Street. At first, it is only a small shape in the dark, a squat glass lamp with a brass handle, and the ribbon tied loosely around its neck. The hour is long past midnight. The city is asleep beneath a quilt of blue-black sky, and the bakery windows are dark except for the last soft memory of oven warmth fading behind the shutters. You stop beneath the striped awning. No one should know you come this way. By day, you are the king of this city, or the city sees you mostly from a distance. Beneath a crown, behind high windows, at the head of a long table, standing upon a balcony, while bells ring and banners lift in the wind. By night, you are only a man in a brown wool cloak, with a plain cap pulled low and a walking stick in your hand. The city knows this second face better than the first, or perhaps you have always hoped it does not. You reach down and touch the lantern's handle. The glass is cool. The wick is new. The ribbon is the pale gold used by bakers to tie morning bread in paper. Then, without your striking a match, the lantern lights. A small flame blooms inside, steady as a held breath. The glow spills across the threshold, touching the flour dust in the cracks of the stone, the worn step where Mara the baker stands each dawn to hand out rolls, and the old iron knocker you repaired yourself 3 winters ago when her apprentice could not make a turn. You remember that night clearly. Snow had covered the street in a soft, deep silence. Mara had been trying to open the bakery before sunrise, and the frozen latch had trapped her outside with her arms full of firewood. You had been walking in disguise then, too, new to the habit, still uncertain whether a king had any right to move unknown among his own people. You had taken off your gloves, warmed the latch with your hands, and worked the old hinge loose until the door opened. She had thanked you, as if you were any kind stranger passing by. "Come back when the bread is ready," she had said. You never did, not by daylight. Now a lantern waits where that memory once happened. Across the street, another flame appears. Then another, one by one, Down Florist Street, lanterns begin to wake outside closed doors. No bell rings. No shout rises. No window opens. The city remains asleep, but along the stones a path of quiet lights begins to form, leading away from the bakery and toward the deeper lanes. You stand in the soft gold glow and listen. The palace towers are far behind you, dark against the stars. You left them an hour ago through the old garden stair, as you always do on nights when sleep will not come. The palace guards believe you are in your chambers. Your council believes you are resting. Your people believe their king lives above them, wrapped in velvet and distance. But the lanterns seem to know otherwise. A breeze moves gently along the street, carrying the smell of yeast, wood smoke, river mist, and cooled stone. The flame inside the bakeress lantern leans toward the next one, not away from you, toward. You adjust the plain cloak around your shoulders and step forward. The city has made a path, and tonight it is asking you to follow. Flower Street bends slowly around the back of the market, where the stalls stand empty beneath their canvas roofs. In daylight this place is full of voices, vegetable sellers calling prices, children weaving between carts, horses stamping beside rain barrels, and musicians playing under the clock arch when the weather is kind. Now the market belongs to sleep. Turnips rest in wooden crates under linen cloths. Apples gleam faintly in the moonlight, red and green and gold, piled like quiet little planets. Bundles of lavender hang from a stall beam, their scent loosened by the cool night air. Somewhere under one of the carts a cat lifts its head, watches you with bright eyes, then decides you are not interesting enough to disturb its rest. The lanterns continue. There is one beside the herb seller's stall, another beneath the awning of the cobbler who always hums while he works, another beside the fountain, where water slides gently from the mouth of a stone fish into a round basin silvered by stars. You know these places, not as a king knows them from reports and tax ledgers, but as a quiet walker knows them, by uneven paving stones, by the smell of rain caught in old wood, by which shutters creak in the wind, by which doorstep stays warm longest after sunset. The herb seller's lantern is tied with green thread. Its flame glows with a faint silver edge. You pause beside it and remember the night you found Mistress Elawan asleep upright against her stall, too tired after caring for half the winter fever district to pack away her jars. You had helped her carry the herbs inside while she laughed softly at herself and called you kind sir, as if kindness were all a man needed to be. The cobbler's lantern has a scrap of leather tied to its handle. You remember bringing him a pair of palace boots once, not for repair, but so he could copy their stitching for his daughter's wedding shoes. He never knew the boots were yours. He had run his hand over the fine work and whispered, "Even kings must have feet, I suppose." You had nearly laughed. The fountain lantern has no ribbon at all. It is plain and old, the sort found in any storage room. That one makes you still. For a long moment you do not know why it has been placed there. Then the memory returns. A boy, years ago, crying beside the fountain after dropping his mother's silver thimble through the grate. You had taken off your cloak, rolled up your sleeve, and reached into the cold water until you found it wedged between two stones. The boy had promised solemnly never to lose it again. Well, his hands were still wet and shaking. You wonder who he is now. Perhaps an apprentice somewhere. Perhaps a father. Perhaps asleep behind one of these dark windows, not remembering your face at all. The lantern flame flickers, as if the city hears the thought and does not mind. You move on. Beyond the market, the road narrows into Candlewick Lane, where the shops lean close together and the upper rooms almost meet above the street. The lanterns here hang from door hooks and window ledges, making the lane glow like a stream of fireflies that chose to rest on stone. You pass the candlemaker's house. The old woman who lives there, Hesabel, has never once bowed to anyone in her life, not even during royal processions. She says her knees are too honest for that. Once carried a basket of beeswax to her cellar during a rainstorm, so strong it turned the gutters into little rivers. She rewarded you with a crook candle and a warning not to trust anyone whose shoes stayed clean. Her lantern burns with a blue-tipped flame. Beside it lies a note folded under a smooth pebble. You pick it up carefully, and handwriting is not Hesabela's. It is finer, bolder, written in ink that seems almost brown in the lantern light. It says, "Walk where you have walked unseen. The city remembers." You read the words twice. The paper warms between your fingers, though the night is cool. There is no signature, only a small mark at the bottom, a crown drawn not above a head, but around a tiny flame. You slick the note into the inside pocket of your cloak. For many years you have believed your night walks were yours alone, a way to escape the court Espalish talk, a way to hear the truth of broken hinges, empty cupboards, frightened children, lonely widowers, and bridges that needed mending before the engineers noticed, a way to become less distant from the city you were born to rule. But perhaps nothing done in kindness remains hidden forever, not even when it wears a plain cap and keeps its eyes low. At the end of Candlewick Lane, the lantern path turns toward the river. The bridge beyond lies sleeping under mist. You follow. The river L passes through the city like a dark ribbon laid carefully between stone walls. Daytime, barges carry wool, grain, timber, and gossip beneath the bridges. Fishermen mend nets on the steps. Laundry boats drift from bank to bank. Children lean over the railings and shout their wishes into the water, because everyone knows the river keeps secrets better than people do. At night, the river seems older than the city. Mist gathers over it in low, silver folds. The moon lies broken on the surface, scattered by the slow movement of the current. The bridge lamps are dim, each one cupped in iron. Their ordinary flames outshone tonight by the stranger lanterns placed along the parapet. You cross the first stones of Old Heron Bridge. This is not the largest bridge in the city, nor the grandest. The palace architects prefer the West Arch, with its carved lions and polished marble steps. Merchants prefer the Market Bridge, wide enough for 4 carts side by side. But Old Heron Bridge is the one you love best, because its stones have been worn smooth by ordinary feet. Halfway across, a figure waits beside the railing. You stop. The man is small and bent, wrapped in a heavy coat, with a gray beard tucked into his scarf, and a lantern hook hanging from one hand. His cap sits low over his brow. He appears to be studying the river, as though it has written him a letter. "Evening, Jonah," you say softly. The bridge-keeper turns. His eyes narrow in the lantern light, not with suspicion, but with the careful patience of someone who has spent many years recognizing people by their footsteps. "Evening," he answers. Though it is closer to morning than evening now, he does not bow. No one bows to you at night. You have always cherished that. Jonna looks down the bridge, where lanterns glow along both sides in a patient line. You have drawn quite a trail behind you. I did not draw it. His mouth tucks into the beginning of a smile. Then perhaps someone else has been doing the walking. You come to stand beside him. The river moves quietly below. "Do you know who placed them?" "I know who placed some," Jonah says. "I placed mine." He nods toward a lantern beside the bridge post. It is old, dented on one side, with a strip of blue cloth tied around the handle. You remember it before he says more. 3 summers ago, a storm had broken one of the bridge chains. No one had noticed how loose the side rail had become until after midnight, when you found Jonah alone with a rope around his waist, trying to secure it before morning traffic. His hands were stiff from age and rain. You had held the lantern for him, then the rope, then the chain, and together you had kept the bridge safe until the repairman arrived at dawn. You told me your name was Reynard, Jonah says. It seemed a useful name. Useful names are usually borrowed. He looks at you now. But hands tell a clearer story than names. You say nothing. Jonah's gaze returns to the water. The city has been speaking for a long time. Most folk only hear carts, bells, and coins. But cities are built of small remembering. A loaf given, a latch repaired, child carried home, a bridge held in the rain. The mist thickens around the lamps. Why tonight, you ask? Jonah lifts his lantern hook and points beyond the bridge. The path continues into the lantern district, because the city has reached the hour when it must answer you. I did not ask a question. The old bridge-keeper glances at you. Hintings ask questions even when they keep their mouths shut. The words settle gently between you. You think of the council chamber earlier that day, of maps spread under candlelight, of arguments over taxes, repairs, guards, guilds, grain, and whether the poorhouse roofs could wait until next spring. You think of polished voices saying necessary, reasonable, delayed, strategic. You think of signing your name too many times and wondering, as you often do, whether a crown makes your hand steadier or only heavier. Perhaps you did ask a question. Perhaps you asked it in silence. What kind of king am I becoming? Jonah steps away from the railing and presses something into your palm. It is a small key, blackened with age, tied to a piece of blue thread. This opens the lower door of the East Watch Tower, he says. There is something there you should see before you return to the palace. The East Watch Tower has been sealed for years. To most people, Jonah replies. The key is cold at first. Then, like the note, it begins to warm. You close your fingers around it. Who is doing this? You ask. Jonah's eyes soften. The city, he says, as if that should be answer enough. And everyone who has ever been helped by someone they were not expected to notice. A bell sounds in the distance, not loud, not urgent, a note from the palace clock. Then silence. Jonah steps back into the mist. Follow the lanterns, Reynard. You look down at the key in your hand, then toward the path of lights leading onward through the sleeping city. When you turn back, Jonah is still there, watching the river, but his lantern has gone out. The lantern district lies beyond Old Heron Bridge, where the streets climb gradually toward the eastern wall. Here, houses are smaller, their roofs steep, their windows framed with painted shutters. By day, the district is alive with craftsmen, glassmakers, metal workers, oil sellers, wick spinners, and the children who run messages between them with ink on their fingers and bread in their pockets. By night, it is a city of stars brought down to earth. Lanterns hang outside nearly every door. Some are plain, some are painted, some are mended with wire, some are made from colored glass that spills red, amber, green, and blue across the cobbles in gentle pools. There are lanterns shaped like pears, like bells, like little houses, like moonlit jars. A few are no bigger than teacups. Others are tall enough to stand beside you like quiet companions. All of them are lit. All of them seem to know you. You walk slowly. A lantern with cracked green glass waits outside the home of the widow Alice, whose roof leaked over her bed for 2 winters before the surveyors added it to their list. You remember climbing onto her roof with tar, straw, and a borrowed hammer, trying not to slip on the tiles while she shouted advice from below as though commanding a ship at sea. A lantern with a copper handle rests outside a narrow house where three sisters once lived. Their father had been taken ill. His shop accounts had become a tangle. The guild clerk had demanded fees it did not owe. You had sat with them at a kitchen table until midnight, sorting numbers by candlelight. By dawn, the mistake was clear. By morning, the clerk was embarrassed. By evening, the sisters still owned their shop. A lantern made of blue glass glows outside the door of a music teacher, who lost his hearing little by little. Once, during a feast day, you saw him standing apart from the square, watching others dance to music he could no longer fully hear. You had asked him to teach you the steps by counting them with his hand against yours. The next week, half the market learned the dance that way. None of these acts had felt royal when you did them. They had felt small, necessary, human. The lanterns suggest otherwise. At the corner of Glassmaker's Row, the path pauses before a workshop with a round window. Warm light glows inside, though no lantern has been placed outside the door. Instead, the door itself is open to hands with. You approach. The smell of cooling glass drifts out. Mineral, smoky, faintly sweet. Inside, shelves hold globes, panes, bottles, beads, and lamp covers in every shade the night can borrow. A furnace sleeps in the center of the room, its embers low and red. An old woman sits at a work table, turning a glass chimney in her hands. Her hair is braided down her back in a silver rope. Her shoulders are narrow. Her fingers are steady. You know her at once. "Master Iron," you say. She does not look up. I have not been called master in a long while. You taught half the Lantern District, and the other half thinks it taught itself. She lifts the glass toward the light and studies the curve. "Come in, Majesty." The word is spoken softly. Still, it stops you at the threshold. Irin sets the chimney down. "You knew?" She smiles without amusement, but with kindness. "Glass teaches patience, also seeing. You passed my window 12 times before I was certain. 14 before my apprentice believed me. 20 before anyone else did. You step into the workshop. The door swings gently behind you. I did not mean to deceive the people I helped." "No," Irin says. "You meant to meet them without making them smaller." Her words are simple. They land with unexpected weight. On the table before her is a lantern unlike the others. Its frame is not brass or iron, but dark polished wood. Its glass is clear, except for a faint patternetch around the sides. Tiny streets, bridges, rooftops, and towers, all circling a small flame. The city held in glass. "This is not mine," she says. "Not entirely. The frame was made by the carpenter whose son you carried home. The handle was forged by the blacksmith whose forge tax you corrected. The wick was spun by the twins whose mother you sent medicine to without a seal or proclamation. The glass," she runs one finger lightly over it. "The glass is mine." You remain very still. "I cannot take this. You are not being given it." She pushes the lantern gently toward you. You are being shown it. The flame inside is unlit, but the key in your palm warms again, as if answering. "What does it mean?" you ask. Rin turns her face toward the dark window, where reflections of lanterns tremble behind her. A city has two kinds of light. The kind set high, so everyone can see who rules, and the kind set low so people can find their way home. Outside, the path of lanterns glows on. "Tonight," she says, "you are being asked which kind you have become. You look at the little city etched in glass. By day, your crown sits high above your people. By night, your hands move low among their doorways. You lift the lantern carefully. It is lighter than it looks. "What is at the east watchtower?" you ask. Ren closes her eyes for a moment, as if listening to something deeper than sound. "The place where the city keeps the names of those who were seen when no one was watching." You leave the glassmakeress workshop, carrying the unlit city lantern in one hand and Jonah's key in the other. The path turns upward. The eastern side of the city is built in terraces against the old hill, rising from the river toward the ancient wall. Steps climb between houses. Narrow passages pass under arches and over little courtyards where potted lemon trees sleep against plaster walls. The air grows cooler as you ascend. From this height, the roofs below look like dark waves, each one touched here and there by a lantern flame. You pass the night bakery where young apprentices begin work before dawn. The shutters are still closed, but warm air breathes through the cracks, carrying the smell of dough, cinnamon, and banked coals. The lantern sits on the step, tied with a red string. You remember the baker there, too, Tomas, who once dropped an entire tray of festival rolls in the mud and stood staring at them as if the world had ended. He had been 17 then, thin as a broom handle, and newly responsible for a shop he feared he could not keep. You had helped him gather what could be saved, and carried flour from the royal stores under the pretense of a delivery error. He had never asked your name. He had only said, "I will do better tomorrow." You wondered whether he did. The scent from the bakery suggests yes. Further up, the lanterns grow fewer but brighter. They no longer mark every door. Instead, they appear at places where memory gathers. A broken wall you once helped rebuild after rain. A public stair where you sat with an old man until his daughter found him. A well you ordered quietly depend after hearing women complain of dry buckets at dawn. A tiny shrine where you left a hope for a sleeping traveler. Each lantern is a sentence in the language you did not know you had been writing. At the top of Ash Step, you find a child's lantern. It is made from a jam jar, with wire twisted awkwardly around the rim and paper stars pasted on the sides. The flame inside glows so gently it seems impossible for it to burn the paper. Beside it lies a wooden toy horse, worn smooth along the back. You know this one before the memory fully opens. A little girl, Rain, a crowded feast night. She had been separated from her parents, near the palace gates, prying too quietly for anyone to hear over the drums. You had knelt beside her, not as king, but as a man with a cloak, and asked the horse's name. "Captain," she had whispered. Together you had looked for her parents, while Captain rode in your pocket with royal dignity. When she was found, her mother had wept into your shoulder. The child had insisted you keep the horse, so you would not be lonely. You had placed it in a drawer beside your bed. It is still there, except it cannot be. And yet here is Captain, eyeing beside the lantern. You pick up the little horse. For a moment, the city seems to hold its breath. The toy is warm from the lantern glow. Its chipped wooden face is turned toward the palace, as if even Captain knows the way home. You tuck it into your cloak pocket beside the note. The steps lead to a small square below the east watchtower. You have not stood here for many years. The tower rises from the old wall, built of darker stone than a palace, older than most of the city, with narrow windows like closed eyes. Ivy climbs one side. The lower door is half hidden behind a sagging curtain of leaves. The watchtower once guarded the eastern road when the city was smaller and the world beyond the hills felt farther away. Now it is used for storage, or so the official records claim. Single lantern hangs above the door. It has no ribbon. Its flame is white. You approach, key in hand. Before you reach the door, a voice speaks from the shadows of the square. You took your time. You turn. A woman sits on the edge of the dry fountain, wrapped in a dark shawl. Her hair is hidden. Her posture is familiar in a way that stirs both comfort and embarrassment. "Leora," you say. Your sister pulls back her hood. By daylight, Princess Leora is the sharpest mind in your council, though she refuses any title longer than her name. She has never been fooled by a polished answer. She has never allowed you to escape a difficult truth, merely because you wear a crown. By night, apparently, she sits in forgotten squares waiting for kings who thought they were keeping secrets. "You knew as well," you say. "I knew before you knew," Leora replies. "You used to climb out of nursery windows to give sugared almonds to the stable boys. That was different. It was lower to the ground. You cannot help smiling." She rises and comes to stand beside you, looking at the tower door. "They asked me not to tell you." "Who did?" "The city, in its very inconvenient way." She reaches into her shawl and takes out a folded paper. "And Tessa Bell. Mostly Tessa Bell." That sounds true enough. Leora gives you the paper. It is covered in names. Not one list, but many small columns, written in different hands. Mara, Elowen, Jonah, Irene, Thomas, Alice. Names you know, names you do not. Beside each, a small mark. Bread, herb, bridge, glass, stair, well, cloak, song, toy horse. "The lanterns were their idea," Leora says. "Once a year there is an old city custom. People light a lamp for the person who helped them through a dark hour. Most do it privately. Tonight they decided not to." Your throat grows quiet. "I did not do enough," you say. Leora does not answer quickly. That is one of her kinder habits. At last she says, "No one does enough alone. Not kings, not sisters, not cities. But that is not the question the night is asking." A white lantern above the door burns without flicker. What is the question? Leora looks at you, and in the dim square she seems younger for a moment, almost the child who used to sit beside you during lessons and pass notes shaped like birds. Whether you will let the hidden kindness become visible law. Words enter you slowly, not praise, not comfort, invitation. You turn the old key in your hand. The lower door of the east watch tower waits. The key fits as if the lock has been waiting with great patience. When you turn it, the sound is small but final. A soft click moves through the wood, into the stone, and perhaps into the sleeping city beyond. The door opens inward on hinges that do not groan. Someone has oiled them recently. Someone has swept the threshold. Someone has placed a woven mat inside, clean and simple, as though this forgotten tower has been expecting guests. You step in with Leora behind you. The air inside is cool and dry. It smells of old stone, wax, paper, and lavender. A narrow stair spirals upward along the wall, but the lower chamber opens ahead of you, round and low-ceilinged, lit by dozens of small lamps set into niches. At first you think the walls are covered in maps. Then you come closer. They are not maps. They are records, not the kind kept by your ministers, written in stiff ink and tied with red cord. These records are made of scraps, ribbons, notes, labels, bits of cloth, old receipts, dried flowers, carved tags, and pages torn from ledgers after their purpose ended. Each one bears a name, a place, and a small account of kindness. Here, a woman gave soup to a mason after his hand was crushed by a stone. There, a schoolmaster taught letters to a laundress by candlelight. A boatman carried a stranger across the river without payment, because the stranger's child was ill. A child saved coins for a month to buy a new scarf for a doorkeeper who stood in winter wind. A guild clerk quietly corrected a tax error before it ruined a family. A seamstress mended funeral clothes for a widow and refused money. A palace guard carried bread to the old prison cells every Thursday, though no one had ordered it. The city has been walking unseen long before you ever put on a plain cloak. You move slowly around the chamber. Some notes are 50 years old. Some are so recent the ink still looks dark. Some are written carefully. Some are barely legible. Some are only symbols. A loaf, a bridge, a cup, a shoe, a candle, a hand. In the center of the room stands a table. Upon it lies a large book bound in soft gray leather. Its cover is unmarked, except for the same symbol from the note. A crown drawn round a flame. Leora remains near the doorway, silent. You approach the book. It opens before your hand touching it. The pages turn by themselves, not quickly, but with the slow courtesy of someone searching for the right place. Names pass under the lamplight. Years, streets, moments, a city made of people carrying one another through ordinary darkness. At last the pages stop. Your own name is not written there, not the royal name you signed beneath. Proclamations, not the string of inherited titles spoken before ceremonies. Instead, in plain ink, the page says, Reynard of the Night Streets. You look at it for a long time. Below the name, the book has begun listing the things you remember and many you had nearly forgotten. Held the bridge chain with Jonah during storm rain. Carried medicine to Mira's mother without seal. Found Captain the horse and returned Elna to her parents. Mended Widow Alice's roof. Listened to the prison baker's son. Sat with old Wren while he forgot his own street. Left firewood where no one asked. Paid the guild fee for 3 sisters and called it correction. Returned silver thimble from fountain. Danced without music, so Master Pell could teach again. The writing continues down the page. You do not know who wrote it. Perhaps everyone. Perhaps the city itself. You place one hand on the table, not because you are unsteady, but because the room seems to have grown deeper than stone. I thought I was learning the city, you say quietly. Leora comes to stand beside you. You are letting it learn you. The book turns another page. This one is blank except for a single line. A king may walk unseen, but a kingdom cannot be built from secrets. The unlit city lantern in your hand gives a soft sound, tiny shift of metal and glass. Its wick catches. No match, no spark, only a flame rising where there was none before. The light fills the lantern's etched streets. Tiny bridges gleam. Little roofs shine. The palace towers, carved almost too small to see, catch a thread of gold. Around the room, the records begin to glow faintly, not with fire, but with remembered warmth. You understand, then, that the lantern path was never meant only to thank you. It was meant to guide you here, to this room, to this book. Who the truth, the kindness, when kept entirely private, may comfort one doorstep at a time. But kindness given shape can become shelter for a city. Your night walks have shown you what laws did not. The broken hinge, the empty pantry, the roof waiting too long for repair, the bridge chain, the guild mistake, the widow, the child, the old man lost in his own street, the teacher who needed a new way to hear music. You have seen the city by lantern light. Now daylight must learn from it. The book turns one last page. There, in several different hands, is written, Bring the low light home. Leora folds her arms gently. Well, you look toward the tower door, beyond which the lantern path waits, leading not farther into the city now, but back toward the palace. For the first time all night, the palace towers do not seem distant. They seem unfinished. Lift the city lantern. Then we bring it home. The path back to the palace is not the same path by which you came. It leads along the eastern wall first, where the city looks out over the dark fields and the sleeping road beyond. The stones beneath your feet are cold. The night air carries the smell of grass, river mist, and the faint sweetness of bread beginning in distant ovens. Behind you, the East Watch Tower glows softly through its narrow windows, no longer forgotten. Eleora walks beside you. Neither of you speaks for a while. Below the wall, the city spreads outward in layers. Rooftops, chimneys, courtyards, wells, market arches, bridges, church spires, guild halls, alleys, inns, gardens, bakeries, and the long dark ribbon of the river catching every lantern it can. The flames form a winding path through the streets. But from here you see something more. The lanterns do not only make a line. They make a shape, not a crown, not a sword, not a royal seal, a hand, an open hand, palm turned upward, formed by hundreds of little lights across the sleeping city. The sight stills you completely. Leora sees it too. Her face softens, though she says nothing. The city is often drawn on maps as walls, gates, districts, and roads. In council, it becomes numbers. Grain stores, repair costs, patrol routes, winter reserves, population lists, bridge tolls, guild dues. In ceremonies, it becomes banners and music. In history books, it becomes battles won, kings crowned, treaties signed, towers built. But from the old wall, under the last deep blue of night, your city is an open hand made of lanterns, offering, asking, holding. You think of the book in the tower, not only your page, but all the other pages, the seamstress, the boatmen, the child with coins, the clerk, the guard, the widow who gave soup, though she had little. The city has been ruling itself in small mercies, while its king learned to listen after dark. The thought does not wound you, it steadies you. At the northern steps, the lantern path descends through a row of almond trees, planted long ago by a queen whose name children now remember mostly, because she loved spring blossoms. Their leaves whisper overhead, lanterns hang from the branches, each one swinging slightly in the breeze, casting moving patterns over the stair. At the bottom, you enter Bell Founder's court. The old foundry is dark, but a warm lamp burns in the open doorway. Inside, shapes of bells hang from beams, great bells, handbells, doorbells, sleigh bells, bells meant for ships, schools, towers, and goats. Their metal sides catch the lantern glow like sleeping moons. A broad-shouldered man sits on an upturned crate, polishing a small bell no larger than a pear. "Your Majesty," he says without rising, "does everyone know tonight?" Most of us know enough. His voice is low and mild. Some know more than they say. Some say more than they know. This is Bram, the bell founder. Years ago, you found him in this very court after a fire damaged one wall of his workshop. He had been sitting among cracked molds, staring at his ruined furnace with ash on his face. The city inspectors had declared repairs impossible until after winter. The next week, royal stone arrived with no explanation. By spring, the foundry rang again. Bram holds out the small bell. "This is for the palace." You accept it. The bell is warm, though no fire touches it. Around its rim are tiny marks: bread, bridge, key, book, flame, hand. What does it do? Bram smiles. What bells do. It calls people to remember what matters. Leora leans closer. Does it ring? Only when someone opens a door that should not have been closed. You hold the bell carefully. It does not make a sound. Where should it hang? Bram points his polishing cloth toward the hill, at the lower palace gate. You know the gate he means. not the grand ceremonial gate with bronze lions and soldiers standing stiff in polished armor. The lower gate is used by servants, suppliers, messengers, gardeners, night watchmen, and anyone whose work keeps the palace alive while nobles arrive through prettier doors. It is the gate you use when you leave in disguise. It is also the gate most citizens are never invited through. You look at the bell in your palm, a door that should not have been closed. Bram returns to polishing another bell, as if the matter is settled. You and Leora continue. The path leads through linen close, where washerwomen have hung small white lanterns from lines strung between buildings. They sway above you like little moons in the laundry sky. It leads past the old hospital garden, where silver herb leaves shine under lantern glow. It leads through Scribe's Alley, where papers flutter in the windows, though no hand touches them. At each place, memory rises and passes gently. Not all of it belongs to you. Some lanterns honor people you have never met. A daughter, a neighbor, a teacher, a stranger, someone who gave water, someone who stayed, someone who noticed, someone who helped before being asked. The path is not only about the king. That, perhaps, is its mercy. By the time the palace hill begins, the eastern sky has softened from black to deep blue. Dawn is still some distance away, but the night has loosened its hold. The palace rises above you, tower by tower, window by window, its walls pale in the lantern light. You have looked down from those windows countless times. Tonight, for the first time, you approach them as the city does, from below, by the road, carrying what you have learned in your hands. The lower palace gate stands at the end of Laurel Road, where the stone wall dips beside the kitchen gardens. It is an old gate, older than the grand entrance on the western side, made of dark oak banded with iron. A small guardhouse leans against it. Above the arch, ivy has covered half the carved motto of your house, leaving only the last 3 words visible, with open hands. You have passed beneath those words 100 times without truly seeing them. Tonight, lanterns line both sides of the road. They do not stop at the gate. They continue through it. The gate itself is open. A palace guard stands beside the arch, helmet tucked under one arm. His name is Cedric. You know him by sight, by reports, and by a night 2 years ago when you found him sitting alone behind the stables after a letter from home told him his father was dying. You sat with him without asking for details. By morning, permission for leave had been signed and sealed. He never knew who arranged it. Now he looks at you in your plain cloak and bows, not low, not grandly, but as one person acknowledging another. Majesty, he says. The word no longer feels like a mask being pasted over your face. It feels like a door being opened from both sides. Cedric, his eyes flicker toward the lantern in your hand, then to the small bell. The hook is ready. Of course it is. Inside the gate, someone has fixed an iron bracket to the wall. It is simple, black, and strong. You hang Bram's bell from it. The moment your fingers let go, the bell gives one soft note, not loud, not ceremonial. A clear, warm sound, like a drop of light falling into water. From somewhere in the palace, another bell answers, then another. Not the great tower bells, but smaller bells, kitchen bells, servant bells, garden bells, chapel bells, corridor bells, bells used to call pages, bells used to announce meals, bells used to summon those who are too often summoned and too rarely thanked. One by one, they ring softly through the palace. Lights appear in windows, not hurried lights, not alarmed, candles, lamps, a few sleepy faces, a cook in the nightcap, a stable boy rubbing his eyes. a maid with her shawl around her shoulders, a page holding a candle too close to his nose. Then more: guards, gardeners, clerks, laundresses, footmen, scribes, scullions, under-stewards, sweepers, and old Nella from the linen rooms, who has never been surprised by anything and does not intend to start now. They gather quietly in the lower courtyard. No trumpets announce you. No herald calls your name. You stand among them in a brown cloak with the city lantern lit in your hand. For a moment you do not know what to say. The palace has always been full of words prepared by others. Speeches, decrees, blessings, judgments, replies. Tonight none of those words will do. Leora stands just behind your shoulder. The little wooden horse rests in your pocket. Jonah's key in another. The note against your heart. The book in the tower waiting behind you. The lantern path glowing through the city, beyond the gate. You lift your eyes to the people before you. I have walked this city at night, you say. No one gasps. A few smile. That helps. I thought I was walking unseen. I thought I was learning what reports could not tell me. I thought kindness, if quiet enough, might be pure enough to matter. The courtyard remained still. But tonight, city showed me something I had not understood. A hidden kindness can mend a hinge, carry a basket, warm a room, or comfort one person in the dark. Those things matter. They matter more than many things written in gold. The city lantern glows in your hand, its etched streets bright. But a kingdom cannot depend only on what is hidden. It cannot wait for its king to find every broken stair by moonlight. It cannot ask widows, apprentices, ards, bakers, children, and neighbors to carry one another, while the palace calls delay wisdom. You look toward the lower gate. Lantern flames shine beyond it, like a road made of dawn before dawn. From this morning, the lower gate will open every seventh day before sunrise. Not for ceremony, not for petitions wrapped in perfect language, for repairs, for needs, for wrong measures, missing medicine, broken roofs, empty cupboards, lost wages, lonely rooms, and promises we have left couch shoes in shadow. A murmur moves through the courtyard, soft as leaves. You continue. The East Watch Tower will be restored as the House of Lowlight. Every act of help may be written there, not so the giver may boast, but so the city remembers how it is held. The council will meet there once each month, before it meets in the marble hall. We will read what the city already knows. Leora's hand touches your shoulder briefly. And this bell, you say, glancing at the small one above the gate, will ring whenever a door has stayed closed too long. Cedric looks up at it. Old Nella nods, as if she has been waiting years for someone to say such a practical thing. The courtyard settles. You do not promise perfection. The night has taught you better than that. The city is too alive for perfect promises. But you can promise attention. You can promise to bring lantern knowledge into daylight. You can promise not to let the crown become higher than the hand. Mara the baker steps from the crowd. You had not noticed her arrive. She carries a round loaf wrapped in pale gold cloth. Her hair is braided hastily. Flour dust marks one sleeve. Then start with breakfast, she says. No good law should be made on an empty stomach. A quiet laugh moves through the courtyard, warm and relieved. Mara places the bread in your hands. It is fresh from the oven. You bow your head to her, not as a disguise, not as a performance, as thanks. Dawn enters slowly, but touches the tops of the palace towers first, turning their pale stone the color of warm cream. Then it slips down the high windows, along the carved ledges, over the sleeping banners, across the roofs of the stables, the greenhouses, until at last it reaches the lower courtyard, where the people of the palace share bread before the day begins. No one has planned a gathering, but it becomes a meal all the same. Mara cuts the loaf with a kitchen knife borrowed from a cook. Someone brings butter. Someone else brings honey. A page appears with apples. The stable boy contributes a jar of pickled pears he claims was waiting for a meaningful occasion, though Nella says it was hidden behind the oat sacks. Cedric fetches cups. Leora sits on the edge of the fountain and tears bread in two pieces, with the seriousness of a minister dividing land. You stand among them without your crown. The city lantern rests on the fountain rim beside you, its flame still lit, though the sky grows brighter. In daylight, its etched streets are subtler, almost invisible, unless one looks closely. You like that. Some truths should reward attention. Beyond the open gate, lanterns still burn along Laurel Road. One by one people begin arriving from the city. Not crowds, not yet, just a few at first. Jonah comes with his bridge hook over one shoulder. Tessa Bell arrives carrying a box of crooked candles and pretending not to be pleased. Reen walks slowly beside a young apprentice who carries a bundle of glass chimneys wrapped in cloth. Ram brings a coil of chain for the new bell bracket, because he has decided the bracket could be stronger. Mistress Elowan appears with herbs tucked into her belt. Tomas, the baker, comes with the tray of cinnamon rolls and ears red from pride. Others follow. Widow Alice, the three sisters from the shop, Master Pell, the music teacher, tapping rhythms gently against his walking stick. A tall young man you do not recognize at first, until he reaches into his pocket and shows you a silver thimble. The boy from the fountain. He is a tailor now. My mother still has it, he says. You do not trust your voice immediately, so you nod. The lower courtyard fills with quiet greetings, bread, steam, candle smoke, and morning light. No one kneels. No one shouts. No one demands grand speeches. The city seems content, for this small hour, simply to stand inside a gate that has been opened. Later, there will be work. You know this. The council will not become gentle overnight. Lidgers will still resist mercy. Roofs will still cost money. Laws must be written carefully. People will disagree. Some will say the lower gate is foolish. Some will say a king should not let every grief climb the palace hill. Some will say hidden kindness was safer because it asked nothing of systems, budgets, schedules, and pride. But the bell is hanging now. The watchtower is open. The book has turned to a new page, and you have seen the city's hand made of lanterns. That will be enough to begin. When the sun finally clears the eastern wall, the lanterns outside begin to go out, not all at once, but one by one, as if each flame is satisfied. Flower Street dims. Candlewick Lane softens. Old Heron Bridge returns to mist and stone. The lantern district becomes glass and shutters again. The palace road loses its golden beads until only ordinary morning remains. The city does not look less magical, only more awake. As the courtyard empties, Leora comes to stand beside you. You will need sleep, she says. So will you. I slept yesterday. That is not how sleep works. It is how royal sisters survive royal brothers. You smile. She studies you with the careful expression she uses before saying something true. Do you regret being seen? You look at the lower gate. The motto above it is clearer now in daylight, ivy moving slightly in the breeze. Wuff wuff for table to fata fata faba fata fapa 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 You thought being known would make the kindness smaller, turn it into a story people told for praise. Instead, it has made the kindness wider. It no longer belongs to you. Perhaps it never did. It belongs to the city, to every doorstep where a lamp was placed, to every hand that carried another through a dark hour. You reach into your pocket and take out the wooden horse. Captain S. painted eyes are chipped, but his little carved legs are firm. Leora raises an eyebrow. You still have that? Apparently the city borrowed it. Polite of it to return him. You turn the horse in your palm, then place it beside the city lantern on the fountain rim. For a moment the morning light touches both, the toy horse, then the lantern full of etched streets, a childish trust, and a city-esque memory. Then a small girl steps forward from behind Mara's skirt. She is perhaps 6 years old, with flour on her cheek and serious eyes. She looks at the wooden horse, as though recognizing royalty of a more important kind. Is he yours? She asks. He was lent to me, you say, for a long time. Does he need to go home? You look at Captain, then at the girl. Hess, you say softly. I think he does. You place the horse in her hands. She holds him with great care. What is his name? Captain. She considers this and nods solemnly, as if the name is suitable. I will show him the bakery. I think you would like that. She runs back to Mara, Captain held against her chest. The courtyard grows quieter. At last, only a few remain. The palace begins its ordinary morning sounds. Buckets, wheels, doors, footsteps, the distant clatter of breakfast trays, birds fussing in the roof lines. The lower gate stays open. You lift the city lantern. Its flame has grown small in the daylight, the little golden bead trembling at the wick. Come, Leora says. Before the council finds you awake and thinks that means available, you let her guide you through the lower corridors, away from the courtyard, away from the gate, into the inner quiet of the palace. Your chamber is high in the eastern tower, but you do not climb to it by the grand stair. You take the narrow servants' passage that winds behind the walls, one you used as a child, when lessons became too polished, and the gardens called more honestly than tutors. The passage smells of stone, dust, beeswax, and the faint herbal soap used in the laundry rooms. Small windows appear now and then, offering pieces of the waking city. A rooftop, a chimney, a slice of river, bird lifting from a bell tower. Leora leaves you at the final landing. Sleep, she says, commanding your king, advising my brother. That sounds more dangerous. It is. She touches your arm once, then descends the stairs, already becoming herself again. Princess, counselor, keeper of inconvenient truths, you continue upward alone. At the top, your chamber waits in a gentle disorder of a room left before midnight by someone who thought he would return unchanged. The bed is turned down. The fire has settled to a low red glow. A book lies open on the table, unread beyond the second page. Your crown rests on its stand near the window, catching the first clear light of morning. It looks very still. You set the city lantern beside it. For the first time, the crown and lantern share the same table. The crown is gold, old, carefully shaped, heavy with symbols, leaves, rivers, towers, stars. It has been worn by those who built walls, signed treaties, led armies, planted orchards, raised taxes, forgave debts, failed, learned, and vanished into portraits. It is not a simple thing. It has never been only pride. But beside the lantern, it seems to remember what it was made for. Not height, light. You remove the note from your pocket and smooth it on the table. Walk where you have walked unseen. The city remembers. Then you place Jonah's key beside it, the key to the East Watchtower, the house of Lowlight now, though the name has not yet been written into any decree. You will write it after sleep. You will call the council. You will ask Mara to bring bread, because she was right about laws and empty stomachs. You will ask Jonah to speak of bridges, Irin to speak of seeing, Llewellyn to speak of medicine, Bram to speak of bells, Tessabel to speak of whatever she likes, because stopping her would be impossible, and probably unwise. You will bring low light into high rooms, but not yet. For now, morning enters gently through the window. The city below has become itself again. No longer a river of lanterns, but streets, roofs, chimneys, carts, birds, laundry lines, market stalls opening, bakery doors swinging wide, ridgestones warming under the first sun. Smoke rises from breakfast fires. Bells begin their ordinary hours. Somewhere far below, a child may be showing a wooden horse the bakery ovens. You open the window. Cool air moves into the room, carrying the softened noise of the city waking. It is so silent, but it is peaceful, in the way living things are peaceful when they are allowed to breathe. You take off the plain cap and set it on the chair. You unfasten the brown cloak. For a moment you hold it in your hands. It has carried rain, flower dust, river mist, candle wax, garden leaves, and the smell of smoke from 100 ordinary hearths. It is not royal clothing. It is not meant for ceremonies. Yet you fold it with care and place it at the foot of the bed. You will wear it again, not to hide, to remember how near the city has always been. The lantern flame begins to lower, not dying, resting. Slate moves across the crown, then across the note, the key, the table, the rug, the bedpost, your hands. It leaves a final small glow on the window ledge, before settling into a calm blue-gold point. You sit on the edge of the bed. The room is warm. The fire murmurs softly in the grate. Outside, the palace bells finish ringing the hour, and from the lower gate, faint but clear, comes one answering note from Bram's small bell. Door that should not have been closed has opened. You lie down. The pillow is cool. The blanket settles over you with familiar weight. Through the open window, the city continues its mourning, but the sounds grow soft at the edges. Wheels on stone, voices below, wings in the eaves, a distant laugh, the river beyond, everything, moving as it always has. You think of the lanterns, the baker's door, the market fountain, Candlewick Lane, Old Heron Bridge, the glassmaker's workshop, the watchtower room full of names, the open hand of the city shining in the dark. You do not try to hold every image. They drift through you slowly, each one becoming gentler than the last. A king may walk unseen. A city may remember. A lantern may wait outside a door for years, holding one small flame, until the person who needs it finally passes by. The city below does not need you to solve everything before noon. It does not ask you to be perfect before sleep. It has shown you what kind of king you truly are becoming, and what kind you may still become. One open gate, one low light, one remembered kindness at a time. The small bell rings once more, far below. Then the room grows quiet. The lantern beside the crown burns low and steady, and while the city wakes in the morning sun, you rest at last in the soft high room above it, with the window open, the crown waiting, and the path of lanterns still glowing gently somewhere behind your closed eyes.